I'm disabled, 65. My wife and I together get less than $2,000 a month in Social Security, and we don't qualify for Medicaid. So it's important to note that there are several factors that could trigger a possible disqualification for Florida Medicaid. I'm going to answer this as if it's in Florida. I'm hoping that it is. I wouldn't be able to answer the question if this was in another state because the rules for Medicaid do change state by state, meaning what might allow someone to qualify in one state might not be the same in another state. So it is definitely state specific. But if you were in Florida and you receive $2,000 a month combined for Social Security and no other income whatsoever, then you would meet one of the qualifications, which would be the income qualification. So an individual in Florida is allowed to have gross income in a month that does not exceed $2,901. So that's the 2025 limit. So, and that's per individual. So obviously if combined your total income is 2,000, there's not going to be an issue for that particular limit. Now, I also want to note though that Social Security is one form of income. So if you are also receiving a pension or any other type of income, this is also going to be included. Now, income is important because you got to make sure you do meet that income limit to qualify. But Medicaid also has a separate asset limit. So just because you're bringing in less than the 2,901 a month doesn't mean that you don't also have to qualify under Medicaid's asset rules. And as far as the asset rules are concerned, an individual is permitted to have $2,000 in available assets at any given point or one point during the month. So essentially that means that your bank account, as an example, would have to have no more than $2,000 in it at least one day out of the month after all bills are paid. Things that can count against you for assets are of course cash or money in the bank, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, retirement accounts if they're not dealt with properly, cash surrender values for insurance policies, and there's other things as well. But essentially there's certain assets that Medicaid also looks at as available resources. And if these assets are available to you and they exceed the $2,000 limit, then you could also be disqualified from Florida Medicaid for being over asset. And this would be dealt with by planning what to do with this overage in assets. You know, depending on how much it is, you might be able to spend them down easily on things that are medically necessary or bills that you need to pay, or you are allowed to have an irrevocable life insurance policy. A lot of times people have these policies in place to pay for burial. You're also permitted to have a separate burial fund that has to be designated as such, has to be in a non-interest bearing account, and can have no more than $2,500 in it. So there are certain assets that you are permitted to have, but there's a whole list of assets that if you do have them, or if they're not dealt with accordingly, then they are going to count against you for the asset limit in Medicaid. So it's really important to remember that there's not only an income or a monthly income limit, there's also an asset limit. Also, what we do see in our office from time to time is sometimes the application isn't filled out properly, or sometimes all the information that is needed in order to qualify someone for Medicaid isn't provided or isn't in the form that DCF wants to see it in. And so in those instances, you might also get a denial based off of lack of information, or some other thing will come back to you stating why it was denied based off the application. So it's really important that in a situation where if you think you should be getting approved, if you think you meet both the income and the asset limit, but you're denied, you need to carefully review the denial letter. The denial letter that you receive will explain why DCF is denying you for your Medicaid qualification. And if this is something that is a little confusing or you're not understanding why you're being denied, then it would be a good opportunity for you to speak with an attorney, an elder law attorney who can review the letter with you and offer some insight as to why you are being denied and what can be done to reverse the denial. So it's really important to know that it's not a simplistic process, meaning there could be several different things that could trigger a denial. And oftentimes what we see is it's easy to fix these things so that you can reapply, or if you send them information within the window of time that you get to reverse the denial. If you send them information typically within 30 days, you can then sometimes get approval. But this is where attorneys or advocates come into play. You know, elder law attorneys can help someone out, because oftentimes if a facility is applying for you, but there are available resources to private pay, they really might not be pushing Medicaid at the time. Or again, if it's a case where it's just confusing or hard to understand, because it can be, it's nice to have a professional who knows what they're doing or who has seen these types of denials before, because then they can offer guidance as to what needs to be done to fix it so that you can get approved. All right, so I hope this answers the question, and I hope you're getting the point that there could be other reasons besides the income limit of why you're getting denied, and it's important to figure out the specific reason so that can be fixed. All right, so if you have any other questions about Florida Medicaid, any elder law questions, estate planning, probate questions, and you're in Florida, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're atCause Law Office, the non-stuffy attorneys, and the link is in my bio.